What's your opinion of PaleoConservatism? Do you believe it to be a noble, respectable, and useful political ideology? And what do you think of many of its traditional Catholic adherents, such as Pat Buchanan, Joe Sobran, Chronicles Magazines Thomas Fleming, Russell Kirk, and the like?
Well, paleoconservatism was a mixed bag. And by that I don't mean mixed bag in terms of good and evil. I mean a mixed bag in terms of stuff. Because you had some paleocons who were Burkeans, like Russell Kirk. In other words, followers of Edmund Burke. You had others, like Fritz Williamson or the entire Triumph crowd, who were followers of various European Catholic people, Carlists or whatever, Chaumaras. You had Southern agrarian types. It was a mixed bag. But by and large, yeah, I mean, they were the closest thing we had in my time to authentic conservatism, and whatever that means. Here we have to be a little specific. You see, ladies and gentlemen, in Europe and Latin America, what they call socialist, we call liberal. What they call liberal, we call conservative. What they call conservative, except for the paleocons, we didn't really have.
Interesting, okay.
And so what's a liberal by that standpoint? Well, a liberal is someone who's for, free trade is the first end all and be all, who's for complete freedom of speech, freedom of this and that. That was classical liberalism. A free church and a free state. The opponents of that were, in this country, were always very small, certainly after the revolution. And they have rarely been what you would call an organized body. And if they have been, they've been very divided among themselves. So like, for instance, a man like Russell Kirk, for most of his life, would look at the Glorious Revolution and at the American Revolution and see these as basically conservative things.
Okay, that's...
Well, I mean, there's a whole set of reasons and explanations as to why they.
It's almost oxymoronic to call a revolution a conservative movement.
Well, it is, and so they would make exceptions and explain why it wasn't really a revolution, and so on, so on, so on.
Okay.
And mind you, when you consider how much good in general people like Russell Kirk did. I'm certainly not disposed to throw out the baby with the bathwater in that regard. Because, Kirk was a brilliant thinker, but he was committed to something that he had to somehow defend. And a lot of people are. If I were to come up to you and say, most of your ancestors up until about 200 years ago were pretty stupid, who's going to like that?
Yeah.
The only thing worse would be for me to come up to you and say, your whole life's work has been just a total waste, which is how the older clergy feel when the younger priests say the Tridentine Mass. But anyway, moving right along. Anyway, but, by and large, a lot of the abstract arguments they made about different things were quite true. And certainly they were far better than anything else on the menu.
Okay. What are some of the defining characteristics that make a person a paleoconservative?
Well, firstly, a paleoconservative is suspicious of the whole idea of human progress and human evolution. And I'm not necessarily talking about biological evolution, but about the idea that of our own abilities we can improve ourselves. And that we can somehow our insights of the moment are superior to the traditions that have been handed down to us. Our ancestors were equally as fallen as we are. The difference is they admitted it, and they had a ton of experience. Whereas we pretend we're perfect, and even though the evidence of what we do doesn't bear that out. Ask the Irish after the referendum, if you don't believe me. So that's, I mean, the place of religion and tradition in governing human behavior is very big with them. The submission of economic issues to ethical ones.
Oh.
That's another big one. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be for or against this or that kind of government regulation over the economy. What they will say, though, is that morality is more important than money. And that just because you might make more money this way doesn't mean that's the way to go.
Okay.
Also, the paleocons will, they believe in the value of honoring our ancestors, whoever they may have been, in their own right. They have a tremendous suspicion of progress and the new. That doesn't mean they don't accept it.
Yeah.
It means, let's see if it works first before embracing it.
Right.
So in that sense, they're very pragmatic as regards progress. They tend not to believe in the idea that that we all do, this inevitabilism that new is better. Maybe new isn't better. Maybe new stinks. Maybe new's a crock. Maybe new is really old, repackaged, and made to look new, when really it's the same old stinking garbage. So.
Yeah.